What's up, TBS crew? It's your boy Steph, back with another reaction. This time we have Mr. Haunted, 4 true creepy horror stories, uploaded May 24th, 2019. Now, down in the description will be a link to Mr. Haunted's channel, a link to this original video so y'all can see it for yourselves without my commentary. Also, will be links to all of my social medias, so get at your boy and see the person life that I don't upload to YouTube. Without further ado, let's get into it. Oh,
When I was 23 years old, something happened to me and my husband that scarred us for life.
I don't like that.
Because of this, we keep all our doors and windows locked and also have a guard dog as well as alarm systems.
There you go.
It was a Tuesday night and I had just finished cleaning up after dinner.
And even all that is not enough.
Jake, which is my husband, was on the couch relaxing while watching a movie. I was tired and had to get up early for work the next day, so I told him that I was going to bed. He then said that he'd be in bed soon and we both said our goodnights. I had already showered, so I just threw myself into bed and went to sleep. I'd say about 3 hours later, I woke up to the sound of my phone ringing. I woke up, annoyed and tired, and felt around for my phone on my night table. However, I heard my phone coming from Jake's night table, so I tried to tell Jake to hand me my phone. He didn't move, so I figured that he was way out by now, as he tends to stay up too late sometimes. Therefore, I had to reach behind Jake to get my phone from his night table. At this point, still in my groggy state, I was able to see a bit more clear. I picked up the phone and felt my heart drop into my stomach once I heard who was on the other end. The person who was on the other end was Jake. He went on to explain that he was going to take the dog for a walk and couldn't find the leash. I didn't move or say anything. I just simply turned my head to whoever was under the blanket on Jake's side of the bed. All of a sudden, someone jumped out of the bed and out the door. I began to scream frantically, yelling for Jake. I then heard Jake yell at someone from downstairs and then eventually come upstairs. At this point, I was breathing heavily and Jake then called the cops. We unfortunately had crappy security cameras throughout the house, so providing any sort of footage to the police was useless as it would be too dark and grainy. We still aren't sure as to how this person got into our house, but we now have all entrances locked and ended up moving away out of state a few months later.
Why didn't Jake tackle the person and whoop their ass and keep them pinned down till the cops got there? Bullshitting. A guard dog and a security, and it wasn't
This
enough.
happened to my sister and I in the winter of 2009 when we were both 10 years old. Throughout our lives, we've always been explorers of the unknown. What I mean by that is that we all liked exploring forests and caves whenever we'd go on a trip to remote areas. My parents trusted us kids, so we'd go looking around for hours in the woods without any adult supervision. Sometimes we'd find really cool little discoveries while exploring. We found old tools, a few little relics, a knife, and even an old ammo crate that we believed was from World War II. They weren't worth anything, but it was still cool to find. Anyways, on with the story. It was winter break and my family and I were going up to my grandma's house in Wisconsin. My grandma lived in the mountains and her house was surrounded by forests in all directions. To better explain, the forest was pretty much her backyard that went on for miles. I don't know what it was about my grandma, but she liked being isolated for some apparent reason. The only explanation I would guess is that she didn't enjoy the busy cities. Anyway, we arrived at my grandma's house and ate a nice home-cooked meal she made for the family. After dinner, my sister and I sat by the fire drinking hot cocoa, excited about what we might find while exploring tomorrow. The next day came around and my parents let us kids go out and have our fun. However, my sister and I had this crazy plan to take our so-called exploring trips one step forward by going deeper into the woods.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Like I said, the forest goes on for miles, so in our 10-year-old state, we figured that there was something else out there waiting to be found. We started walking along the trail, looking on the ground for things we thought had value. The closest thing we ended up finding was some rocks that looked kinda cool to us. However, I managed to notice a small little clearing in the woods, about 20 feet from where we were standing. The thing that made it more visible was that we noticed a small structure in the clearing. At first, we thought it was just some old water tanks or something, but as we got closer, we identified it as being an old, abandoned underground bunker, probably once used for military. I told her that we came here to explore and went on to explain as to how rare it was to find a bunker deep into the woods. I eventually convinced my sister to go, and she then complied. The further we went towards it, the more creepy the setting became. The wind was getting stronger while there was more heavy rain clouds above. We then started to notice graffiti sprayed on the concrete in multiple places. There were also some empty beer cans, plastic bags, and various other pieces of trash. That's when my sister and I found what was once the main doors of the bunker. Keep in mind that this wasn't one of those big bunkers with doors about 30 feet high. It was rather a more smaller bunker. Long story short, we opened the doors, creating a very loud creak. Inside was just an empty dark hallway, and the only sound we could hear was water dripping from somewhere deep into the bunker. Now, this was before iPhones had built-in flashlights, so we used all of the light our screens could give and used that to light the way. Looking back, it was pretty useless as our screens only illuminated what was about a foot in front of us. However, we did end up finding some old papers that had been typed. Just by reading some of them, we were almost certain that this bunker was used during the war. That's when we heard a very loud metal bang from down the hall, along with what sounded like footsteps. It was obvious that we were not the only ones here. I told my sister to run, and we booked it back to the main doors and out of the woods. We ran straight home, and by now it was starting to rain, but we naturally didn't care. The only thing we cared about if there was something behind us. Within 5 minutes of running, we made it back to my grandma's house, and there was thankfully nobody home, as we would have gotten into major trouble.
It be like that.
Ever since that day, we never told anyone else about the story, not even our parents. I still don't know who or what was with us in that bunker.
Or if it was even human. I hope it wasn't like that in the picture right there, because if that's what it was, man, y'all were playing around with y'all lives. Y'all deserve to get got.
During my late childhood at around 15 to 17 years old, I've always had a fear of the night.
It be like that.
I say late childhood as my fear of the night had started around that time because of something that nobody should ever have to go through in their life. I don't know how it happened, but somehow my fear stuck with me throughout my teenage years and so on. When I was younger, I used to think monsters would be under my bed, but as I got older, I feared of being groped or attacked. Yes, I may have gotten over it just a little bit by maturing, but the reality was that the fear was still there and showed no signs of stopping anytime soon.
Groped.
My parents had always told me that it was nonsense and that I had to grow out of it eventually. Anyways, on with the story. It was the summer of 2015, and I was around the age of 17 years old, and my family and I were driving up to Cape Cod for a week to rent a house on the beach to celebrate my birthday. Ever since I was young, I've always dreamt of visiting the Cape and Massachusetts in general. It was really the historical buildings, the sculptures, and main attractions that really had me hooked. What I loved about the Cape was the nice beaches and little shops it had. My mom had told me stories about how her and my dad would sit by the beach and catch little crabs when they were on their honeymoon. Anyways, we were struggling with money during this time, so I couldn't thank my parents enough for letting us go on this trip. We rented out a small one-bedroom beach house that had a clear view of the ocean from the outside deck. The beach was about 3 minutes in walking distance from the house, which meant I could go whenever I wanted. One day, my parents said that they were going to pick up some food at a small little local grocery store. I didn't want to go with them as I just wanted to relax and enjoy the Cape. It was dark out, around 9:30 p.m., and I was reading a book to keep myself occupied. The thing that I didn't like about this beach house was that the TV didn't have any good channels and that there were no movies. So the closest thing to entertainment was to read. You may just say to go on the phone, but I was part of the 1% of the people who didn't go on their phone. Anyway, as I'm reading in bed, I hear what sounds like light breathing or air coming from somewhere in the room. Keep in mind that the air conditioner is off and that it's completely silent, so I knew I could hear something. However, as soon as I started to listen, the noises suddenly stopped. At that point, I figured my mind was playing tricks on me, as I do sometimes get a bit paranoid when it's dark out. Fast forward to about half an hour later, my parents still had not returned from the store, and I then began to get this strange feeling that I still can't explain. Like I was being watched by someone. That's when I began to hear the breathing again. This time, I knew that I had heard it from somewhere. I was pretty sure that there was something wrong with the AC unit. Like I said, this was a small old beach house, so if there was something wrong with the AC, I wouldn't be surprised. I got out of bed and put my feet down on the floor, when I felt two cold hands grab my ankles and start pulling me under. I screamed and tried to fight back, but I was a 5-foot girl at the time that weighed about 100 pounds, so I couldn't fight them even if I tried.
Soaking wet.
I tried to find whatever I could to make the intruder let go of me. I unfortunately didn't find any objects to defend myself with, so I used my nails to dig deep into his skin.
There you go.
That seemed to get him to let go of me, and then I took that chance to run out of the room and out onto the street. Outside were my parents, along with a police car. Turns out, a nearby neighbor witnessed a man sneaking in the house from the back door, carrying some sort of tool to break locks fast. The police said that it was a custom-made lock breaker to break any type of locks with ease. As far as I know, he's still in jail to this day.
Good.
I can't thank the person enough for calling the police and potentially saving my life. Who knows what could have happened to me. After the trip, I never wanted to go back to the Cape again, as I sometimes look back on that incident. Unfortunately, there are so many people in the world that could just ruin things for you. All it takes is one person.
In one small bad situation. You small women need to start carrying some weapons. Mace, something, taser.
During my late 20s, I worked as a nurse at a hospital called Baptist Hospital in Florida.
Come on now.
It was a really big hospital. You might as well just consider it as a big city. My duties and responsibilities at my job consisted of checking up on patients who were in need and to also serve them food. I had other things, but those were the major ones. One night, I ended my shift early as I had to help my dad with things around the house. He was around 70 at the time and couldn't really do everything on his own. I got into my car only to realize that it wouldn't start. I quietly swore to myself and kept trying to start it.
Shit.
It was an old car, so I wasn't that surprised. It was too late to call a tow truck or anything like that, and Uber wasn't around during the time of the story. The only option at this point was to hitchhike. I mean, what else was there to do?
Okay, hold on, wait a second. I already see where this is going. Uber and Lyft not being around at the time this story took place. Okay, I'll give you that. But what the fuck do you mean it's too late to call a tow truck to come and get you? Let me tell you something. Maybe it's just the tow trucks and the tow truck companies out here in Northwest Indiana. But it don't matter what time of the day or night you call. If you got some money, oh, they gonna come and tow you. Oh, best believe that. It's gonna cost a pretty penny. Don't get it fucked off. But they gonna come get you. Like, I don't know what you talking about. Motherfuckers need to invest in roadside assistance if they don't think that a normal tow truck company will come and scoop you up for some money. I don't know what you talking about. You gonna hitchhike and get that ass fucked up and get clapped.
I would have just called a friend to come and pick me up, but seeing as it was late at night and that they were probably sleeping, I figured it wasn't such a great idea. I walked to the side of the road and stuck my thumb up, hoping someone would pick me up. Hitchhiking was a clear no-no in most people's books, but I thought as myself as smart and would take action if someone, quote, tried something.
Sure.
About 10 minutes later, I saw headlights coming my way, and the driver then came to a complete stop. He rolled down his window and said, "Hop in." Excitedly, I went into his car and gave him directions to my neighborhood. He replied with an okay and drove off. I don't know how it happened, but I for some reason fell asleep for a few minutes.
Wow.
I woke up to find out that we were on a road that I wasn't familiar with. It looked more like a deserted type road with no cars.
See.
I asked, where are we going? There was no response from him. That's when I noticed he started to get a little bit sweaty. At this point, I knew that something wasn't right as the situation only got more sketchy.
You don't say.
I then told him that this wasn't the right way to my house and that he needed to stop and turn around. He looked at me and hit the brakes somewhat aggressively and told me to just get out. I got out and he drove away, and I immediately called the cops to drive me home, which they thankfully did come. Long story short, I arrived home to help him with my dad with whatever he needed to be done. I didn't tell him what had taken place as he would have gotten too worried, and I don't like it when he feels like that. It would only add on to the stress. Till this day, I still don't know who that man was or what he wanted or where he was taking me. What I do know is that wherever he was taking me wasn't to my house.
You motherfuckers gonna get enough for trying to hitchhike and shit. At what point is hitchhiking ever a good idea or your last resort? Like, hitchhiking, no? For real? Even if they didn't have Lyft and Uber back then, taxi cabs and taxi companies have been around for a hot minute. Now, do they run late at night? I couldn't tell you that. I'm pretty sure there are some that do, but I can't give a direct answer to that. But the tow truck, that's bullshit. There are tow truck companies that are 24/7. If you need to be towed and you got the bread to give them when they do come tow you to your house or wherever you're getting it towed to, fam, they're gonna come get you. I call bullshit on that. You don't know what you was talking about. Thank you guys so much for watching my video. If you enjoyed the reaction, leave a like, a comment, and share the video. And if you really liked it, subscribe to the channel and tap that bell icon so you will get notified every time your boy Steph drop new content, which I do 7 times a week. That is all I got for y'all this time around. Your boy Steph is out.